know the Bruce Lee quote, "Be like water, my friend." You've heard it 1,000 times. It's on Instagram posters, tattoos, motivational videos. But here's what I've found. Almost nobody actually knows what he meant. And that's the real problem, because when you understand what he actually meant, everything changes. Not just martial arts, business, relationships, how you handle obstacles, everything. Most people think be like water means be passive. Go with the flow. Don't resist. Surrender. And that interpretation is incomplete. It's actually the opposite of what Bruce Lee was saying. Let me explain what's really happening here. Bruce Lee wasn't describing passivity. He was describing adaptive power. Think about water for a second. Water never fights the rock. It doesn't try to overpower it. It flows around it. And over time, water, the softest thing in nature, wears down the hardest stone. That's not weakness. That's ultimate power. That's efficiency. You use zero force and achieve maximum result. Most people spend their lives trying to force outcomes. They push harder, resist more, fight against what is. And they wonder why they're exhausted and not getting anywhere. What if I told you the most effective people in the world, the best negotiators, the best leaders, the best problem solvers, they all operate on this exact principle. They release the need to force. Now be like water sounds simple. It's not. It's a process. And that's what most people miss. You can't just decide to be like water tomorrow and have it work. There's a sequence, a specific way your mind has to shift. Do it out of order, and you'll just look passive or weak. Do it in sequence, and you become unstoppable. Here's the first step. Release your attachment to being right. I know that sounds strange. Stay with me. Water has no ego. It doesn't care what shape it takes. Pour it into a cup, it becomes the cup. Pour it into a river, it becomes the river. It never insists on being water in the way water wants to be. It simply becomes what the moment requires. This is step one, and it's harder than it sounds. Your identity is rigid. You have a way you think things should go. You have opinions about how you should handle this negotiation, this conflict, this obstacle. And that rigidity is actually your biggest limitation. When you're attached to being right, you can't read what's actually happening in front of you. You can only see what confirms your existing belief. Bruce Lee trained fighters to release this attachment first. Not because ego is bad, but because ego is a filter. It distorts your perception. So step one is simple. Notice when you're defending a position just because it's your position. That's the moment to pause and ask, what if I'm wrong about this? Not as self-doubt, as curiosity, as expansion. This is the foundation. If you skip this step, nothing else works. But here's the thing most people don't realize, and this is critical. Releasing your attachment to being right actually makes you more powerful, not less, because now you can see clearly. Step 2. Read the environment completely. Once you've loosened your grip on being right, you can actually see what's in front of you. This is where most people fail. They skip step 1 and try to jump to step 2, and it doesn't work. But if you've genuinely released your attachment, now you can observe. In Bruce Lee's framework, this meant reading your opponent's movements, their weight distribution, their breathing. In business, this means reading the room, reading the person across the table from you, reading what's actually being said beneath the words, reading the patterns in your obstacle. There's a problem here, though. Most people think reading the environment means analyzing it. Overthinking it, creating theories about what's happening, that's not it. Real observation is almost passive. It's like watching water. Water doesn't think about the rock. It simply touches it, feels it, and knows how to move. So in this step, you're practicing what I call clean attention. You look at the situation without your interpretation layer, without your story about what it means. What's actually present? What's the actual obstacle? Not the story you're telling about the obstacle, not the meaning you've assigned to it. What is it? This sounds abstract, so let me ground it. You're in a business negotiation. Instead of thinking, this person is trying to screw me, you observe, they keep asking about this one specific issue. They lean forward when I mention price. They seemed relieved when I asked about timeline. No interpretation, just data, clean attention. This is step 2, and you can practice it immediately. But there's a problem. Once you see clearly, you'll feel the urge to react, to move, to do something based on what you see. And if you move too early, you lose everything. This brings us to step 3, wait for the opening. This is the counterintuitive part. Water doesn't attack the rock, it waits. It moves through the path of least resistance, and it only moves when the path is open. In combat, Bruce Lee called this following the line of sight. Your opponent gives you an opening, a millisecond where they're vulnerable. And that's when you move, not before, not after. When? In life and business, this translates directly. You're in conflict with someone. You see the situation clearly now, and your instinct is to push harder, to convince them, to force them to see your point. Wrong. That's where most people sabotage themselves. The opening comes when the other person is ready, when the conditions align, when the path of least resistance reveals itself. Your job in step 3 is to wait without anxiety, without frustration, to stay present and ready, but not to force. I know this feels passive. It's not. It's the hardest work you'll do, actually. It's maintaining readiness while releasing urgency. It's staying present without pushing. Most people can't do this because it triggers their anxiety. So they push, and pushing closes doors. Here's what happens when you master step 3. The other person starts moving toward you, not because you convinced them, because the conditions aligned and they finally see what you see. It's almost like they came up with the idea themselves. That's the power of this step. Now comes step 4, flow with complete efficiency. Once you see the opening, you move. And here's the mechanical difference between forcing and flowing. When you force, you use maximum energy. You tense up, you push hard. When you flow, you use exactly the right amount of energy, in exactly the right direction, at exactly the right time. It feels effortless because it is efficient. Bruce Lee's power didn't come from massive muscles or out-muscling opponents. It came from perfect timing and perfect direction. He moved a certain way, and massive men would go flying, not because of strength, because physics, because wu-wei, effortless action. In a negotiation, this might mean saying the exact right thing at the exact right moment. Not the thing you prepared, the thing that's actually true and relevant right now. In a difficult conversation, it's the comment that shifts the entire dynamic because it's perfectly calibrated to what they needed to hear. It lands without effort because it's aligned with what's actually true. This is the process, 4 steps, and you need them in sequence or it collapses. You can't read the environment if you're still defending your ego. You can't wait for the opening if you haven't seen it clearly. You can't flow efficiently if you haven't waited for the right moment. Most people fail because they either skip steps or do them out of order. They release their ego but never read what's actually there, so they just become passive. Or they read the environment but can't wait for the opening, so they force anyway. Or they wait, but then move without efficiency. But if you follow the sequence, truly follow it, something shifts. You stop being reactive. You stop being exhausted by pushing. You become the person who seems to move through obstacles like water moves through a landscape. Not because you're lucky, because you've learned how power actually works. Here's what's important to understand. This isn't passivity. This is the opposite. This is strategic power. This is what separates the people who are always struggling from the people who seem to move through life with ease. The easy ones aren't lucky. They understand this process. Be like water. Now you know what that means. And more importantly, you know how to actually do it. Start with step 1 today. Just notice when you're attached to being right. That's the foundation. Everything else builds from there. The ancient masters knew something we forgot. Power doesn't come from force. It comes from alignment, from seeing clearly, from moving at the right time in the right direction. That's Bruce Lee's real legacy. Not a quote, a system, a way of moving through life that works. If this helped, hit like, subscribe, and keep it simple. See you tomorrow.